Okay, so the next part of my talk, I want to concentrate on what could we learn from these archival documents. The over 100 archival documents I have collected and published in my book, all translated into English, will give reader and students a better view of how and why the catastrophe unfolded, as well as the enormity and sheer horror of what took place. These documents also help us to get much closer and a better view of everyday life in South China, helping us to understand the complex and the individual experiences of surviving the communist rule. So the first point is the bulk of documents I uncovered from the Chinese archive show that terror and violence was the very foundation of the Great Leap Forward. In general, we tend to associate famine with lack of food and the resultant starvation. But as I was researching in the archives, I was so shocked by the extraordinary level of violence took place in the people's communes. With radical collectivization, villagers lost everything from their homes to land, livelihood, and personal belongings. Many, as a result, lost the incentive to work. In order to meet government's unrealistic high quota, many coders used violence to wake up the workforce. People were constantly tortured to work harder. In many ways, the people's commune was worse than the Gulag. In some places, villagers were forced to work in freezing winter, wearing nothing. The logic was that they had to work really hard in order to keep warm. Not only so, many times villagers had their ears or fingers being chopped off because they were seen not working hard enough or they disobeyed the coders. In some places, people were even buried alive. In China, during the Great Leap Famine, as my book, as well as Dikötter's book show, between 2 to 3 million people were tortured to death or being killed deliberately. We're not talking about people starved to death. These were the people being tortured or, to death or killed deliberately. The second point I've learned from the archive documents is that a number of documents I uncovered from the archives show that the authority in Beijing knew well the extent of starvation and suffering, but they ignored the problem and carried on with the Great Leap Forward nevertheless. To give you one example, early on in my research, I came across documents in Hunan Provincial Archive on the Luliang incident in Yunnan Province that made a deep impression on me. In January 1958, the Yunnan provincial government engaged 90% of local population in Great Leap Forward's water conservation projects. The goal was to fully irrigate more than 10 million hectares of land in Yunnan within 1 year. Villagers were forced to work for over 10 hours a day, sometimes all night long, and with very little, hardly anything to eat. In February 1958, very early on in the Great Leap Forward, a major outbreak of edema was reported at Luliang's Xichong Reservoir construction site, and a huge number of people died. The local coder who reported the incident was denounced for undermining the Great Leap Forward. After that, no one dared to reveal the truth. So the situation quickly worsened, a major famine broke out, and the death toll rose sharply. Soon edema and deaths became widespread in a number of neighboring counties. But anyone who dared to report the problem was purged as a rightist. By August 15, at the height of the Great Leap Forward, some 169,000 cases of edema had been reported in Luliang and nearby counties, and nearly 24,000 people had died in one small county. Many families fled the famine. After reading the reports of the Luliang incident, Mao wrote simply, "This is a good report. The Yunnan provincial government made a mistake, but they have realized that there was a problem and they have dealt with the problem correctly. They have learned their lesson and they will not make the same mistake again. This is a good thing, turning disaster into a blessing. Famine is a good thing." At the same time, the central government engaging issued an order to make sure that everyone in the country should consume at least 2,500 calories a day. But both Mao and the government ignored the crucial fact that there was an endemic famine in the country and that a large number of people were dying. The third thing I've learned from the archives is that there was a wide scale of cannibalism in the Chinese countryside during this period. Terror and starvation stripped villagers of their very last remnant of human dignity. To survive such horrendous conditions, a number of people resorted to eating dead human flesh. These the documents came from the Gansu Provincial Archive, which shows that 50 cases of cannibalism took place in one small area in Ningxia municipal in Gansu province. So, 50 cases of cannibalism took place in one small place. Similar incidents, this is however not unique, similar incidents were also reported in eastern Sichuan and Guizhou. And in Guizhou's Sisui County, that's where Mao first came to his power, had Sisui always boasted in its red legacy in that way, but it was also in Sisui that a terrible famine took place, and there was a huge number of cannibalism being reported. But when the local police reported to the local party boss about the problem of cannibalism, he turned into great fear and accusing the police for making a big thing, for undermining the way forward. So they were just reported as, crime, but what kind of crime? Who was responsible for the crime? It was never talked about. On a more encouraging note, the fourth thing I've learned from those archive documents is that a huge number of documents will also demonstrate that despite, or perhaps because of the suffering, there was considerable resistance to and protest about collectivization and its consequences. Unlike in the Soviet Union, where collectivization turned into a civil war between the state and peasantry, in China, rural villagers used what Jeff Scott has called weapons of the weak in resisting the Great Leap Forward. For instance, one document from Sichuan Provincial Archive stating that in 1957, some 400 to 500 petitioners turned up each month outside the Central Rural Affairs Commission in Beijing to oppose collectivization. They were from 14 different provinces throughout China. In a one-party authoritarian state where public debate or protest is not permitted, speaking out can lead to serious trouble. As a result, rumors have become a tool for many peasants to voice their anger, to denounce cadres, and to seek redress. Others also took up the tradition of complaint by writing letters or petition to the party. One document from Shandong Provincial Party Committee shows that between February 1st to 15 and a half months in 1956, 266 letters of complaints were passed on by the Central Committee of Chinese Communist Party or sent directly to the Provincial Party Committee. All the letters were concerned with food crisis in countryside. But it was one document in particular moved me to tears. This was a 1960 memorandum from the Communist Party's Central Committee. It states that a poor peasant girl from Henan province wrote a letter to Chairman Mao Zedong complaining about the injustice done by the local corders to her father and sister. Afraid of persecution, she kept the letter stitched inside her jacket for over a year until the work team turned up in his village. Then she handed the letter to the work team, so hoping the letter will reach Chairman Mao. Okay, so to some, lots of other documents also reveal various survival strategies in the villagers in Chinese countryside had employed in order to survive the famine. But since Ralph Stork is going to deal this in great detail, so I'm just going to move on. So to conclude very quickly, in a similar way as the world came to learn the truth of the massacre of Polish nationals in the 1940s following the revelation of the original execution orders signed by Stalin, by reading these original documents from the Chinese archive relating to the famine during the Greatly Forward period, readers can learn that what took place is beyond doubt, and these revelations therefore remove any further opportunity for denials of what happened, or attempts to defend the Greatly Forward, or arguments for defending an innocent party leadership at the time. Thank you very much.